Hello and welcome into my oral defense for my senior project proposal. The title of my proposal, or the working title, is Embodied Mindfulness and the Somatic Shift, exploring senior managers' ability to shift attention to embodied states of awareness and its effect on well-being and leadership effectiveness. So I would like to start off today's presentation with my own interest and where that originated in my purpose and my intention of studying these embodied states of awareness in senior leaders and their ability to shift attention to their bodies. I myself have witnessed the power of a manager's inability to attune and to calm and to befriend their own nervous system in the workplace, and their own relationship, their inability to choose adaptive stress responses, and how that emotional contagion can affect everybody on their team, simply because they are in authority. And because of that, those ruptures and its effect on psychological safety, its effect on well-being, and the effect of managers on employee well-being, I've chosen to focus on managers' ability, and this is their physical ability to bring their attention out of their head and egoic patterns and stressors, or even the ideas of what we're working on a team, and to learn to bring their attention into their embodied states of awareness. And so in terms of a literature review, what I found, and where I want to begin today's presentation, is specifically with a study that was done by Christina Banfield on navigating embodied states of awareness in the workplace. And the reason why I want to begin with that is because what she did in her study is she found 10 managers, and she simply asked these managers. She did a phenomenological study on what are managers' direct experience, what is their reported experience of embodied states of awareness. And so before we get into this, I need to review three things. And those three things are what is embodied self-awareness, what is eustress, and what is allostasis. And so embodied self-awareness is a particular way of paying attention. This is from Blake, 2022, involving a felt sense way of knowing one's experience through sensation and movement rather than a descriptive way of knowing language and ideas. And this is very, very important for this study, because many studies in management and around stress and around management and leadership effectiveness have to do with ideas and language. And what I'm focused and interested in studying is the embodied awareness of the manager in the present moment while they are tuning and working with their team. Because when a manager, my theory is that when a manager is capable of calming and soothing or befriending and attending to their nervous system in the workplace, they will be able to create an environment, a physical environment, that will increase psychological safety and well-being for the team, and will be able to maintain what's called stress eustress. And so what is stress eustress? The outcome of perceiving a stressor as a growth-oriented challenge or opportunity and reacting in ways that increase positive outlook and affect, often including adaptive behaviors and productive outcomes. That's from Howard, 2016. So oftentimes in the workplace, and when we talk about stress, and we talk about well-being, and we talk about leadership and management effectiveness, we think about stress and we think about outcomes. And these two topics are polar opposition. We can either have certain outcomes that we are focused on attaining as managers and as a team, and we have stress. And oftentimes we want to reduce stress in order to increase effectiveness. But again, these things are at opposition. When we look at stress eustress, what we realize is that a certain amount of stress produces desirable difficulties that increase focus and allow us to grow because we're able to overcome that stress, that load, and then we gain skills and we learn to adapt. So we actually want to remove stress completely. We want to have a particular amount of stress. We want to have the skills to be able to adapt and to respond to that stress in an adaptive way. And my theory and my intention is to focus on the embodied states of awareness because it's our nervous system that is very important to adapt to that stress. Now, this is the third thing, which is allostasis. And so what allostasis is an adaptive stress response, which refers to having a flexible response to stressors such that the body can rather smoothly and rapidly reset its physiological stress response to return to homeostasis. That is also from Howard, 2016. So what I want to point out here is that traditional leadership and management strategies or theories break down into three main theories. We have transactional leadership, servant leadership, and transformational leadership. And these are theories of leadership. They're not embodied strategies to learn to attune and to befriend and to attend to the nervous system in order to create those adaptive stress responses. And so my theory is that by focusing on training managers to respond to what is happening in their bodies while they're communicating and working with their team, we can transcend leadership theory into discovering what's called embodied leadership practice. And this is my deeper intention beyond this study, is to develop tools and practices to train managers to respond to stress in the workplace in adaptive ways in order to create environments that promote both well-being, psychological safety, and team effectiveness as one unit. And so my methodology that I'm going to use to do this is going to be in alignment with Banfield's strategy. I'm going to follow along with what she did in her methodology, which was to interview 10 managers about their relationship with dysregulated embodied states of awareness, modulated embodied states of awareness, and restorative embodied states of awareness. But when she interviewed these managers, what she was doing was using a phenomenological analysis, and she was only interviewing them about their psychological perception of these three states. And so before I talk about that, I want to talk about what are these three states of embodied states of awareness and where did they come from? So the first one is dysregulated embodied state of awareness. And these were outlined by Fogel, 2020 and 2023. Dysregulated embodied state of awareness is any time that we notice or we become aware that we're unable to meet the environment, the demands of the environment. It might be characterized by rumination, automatic negative thinking, becoming hijacked, having a triggered or trauma stress response, disassociation, a feeling of tension on or in the body. Whatever it is for that individual, it is, but it falls into this dysregulated embodied state of awareness. We might not even be conscious that it's occurring because we're so triggered that we're just moving through it until we become aware or trained to notice that, oh, what we're experiencing is a dysregulated embodied state of awareness. Then what we have is a modulated embodied state of awareness. What a modulated embodied state of awareness is whatever strategy we have learned through the adaptive process of survival in order to move or to transition from a dysregulated embodied state of awareness to a modulated embodied state of awareness. And some of these strategies are not necessarily productive in the workplace to promote psychological safety, effectiveness, and well-being, right? How many times can you imagine a manager that has learned to go from a dysregulated state of embodied awareness to a modulated embodied state of awareness by using strategies that don't necessarily promote psychological safety, effectiveness, or team collaboration? And so these two states are the states that we move through back and forth. We bounce between these states throughout our day, our daily life, oftentimes with no conscious awareness. We move from dysregulated to modulated embodied state of awareness. The third state is what's called restorative embodied state of awareness. And what's really special or unique about the restorative embodied state of awareness is that it's characterized by non-modulation. And so let's talk about why that's important. Excuse me. The restorative embodied state of awareness is specifically characterized by non-modulation. And so what that I like to call that is the RISA slide. And so in this state, the body comes into a state of allostasis, right? And what allostasis is, an adaptive stress response, which refers to having a flexible response to stressors such that the body can rather smoothly and rapidly reset its physiological stress response and return to homeostasis. So what a RISA state is it's when the body is sliding between modulation and dysregulation while in the environment. And so this is characterized by letting go, surrender, drifting, an open state of awareness without fear or overwhelm, where there is an emergent quality of restoration and flow. This is oftentimes unnoticed. And in Banfield's research, what she found when she interviewed managers is that many managers, when they learned about this definition or were interviewed about this definition, they would say automatically that it was not possible to access a restorative embodied state of awareness inside the workplace. So their perception of a restorative embodied state of awareness was that it could only be maintained during yoga or walking or being out with a loved one or a pet, but that all of these examples or moments of restorative embodied states of awareness had to be accessed outside of the workplace, which is simply not true and leads to an ineffectiveness inside the workplace because we have micro moments of restorative embodied states of awareness throughout our day that are oftentimes go unnoticed. And so this leads me to my research and the specific area that I want to focus on. What I want to do is I want to find 5 to 10 managers. These managers have will have been managers of more than 5 individuals at the same company for more than 3 years. So they've been at least managing a team for 3 years, meaning they're not novice managers. Then what I want to do is interview these managers 5 times each. This interview is the interview technique that I'm going to use is very important. And what it is called is a body-focused interview. And this was outlined by Jennifer Tantia in the Art and Practice of Embodied Research Design. What an embodied interview is it's an interview that is very similar to the focusing technique, which has been outlined by Eugene Gendlin and Cornell. And what Eugene Gendlin and Cornell do in the focusing technique, which is often used in clinical practice or in therapeutic settings, is they are interrupting the individual, the client, while they are talking about a past event and bringing their attention into the body so that this individual becomes aware of the present embodied state while they are reflecting on a dysregulated or modulated embodied state of awareness event. In this way, they are training an individual to become aware of what is happening on or in their body in the present moment. Then they question the individual a few levels deeper about what they are feeling, where they're feeling the body, what textures, what colors, what associations, and what metaphors come to light to describe their present experience. And then what shift or is available to them within their psychology while they're being interviewed about this event. What's special about this is it starts to bring us into attunement with, as a clinician, with the client. And we start to become aware of the possibility of responding to challenging experiences in new ways, ways that are not necessarily available to us outside of the clinical setting. And this brings me to my final piece. And this is the transition to training versus research. And it's a question I'm going to have as I write my proposal. What this is that what I noticed inside of Banfield research is that all she was doing was interviewing managers about their relationship or their description of embodied states of awareness. The challenge here is that we are leaving the manager, or we're leaving the client, to only have available to them their own description of what they associate to be a dysregulated state, a modulated state, or restorative embodied state of awareness. And I find, while I'm very interested in what their experiences are, I'm interested in this focusing technique and the effect that the clinician and the individuals have on the emergent and collaborative experience that occurs when we bring the client using an embodied research, an embodied interview technique in the present moment while I'm interviewing them into their bodies to explore the emergent embodied state of awareness in the present moment. And the reason why this is so special is because now we are starting to get out of leadership theory and management theory and transitioning into embodied leadership practice. It's my opinion and my experience, and I believe what I'm going to find as I move forward in this project is that it is not truly possible to remove the effect of myself as the interviewer from the experience of my client or the research participant, that I will be in some way affecting or at least modulating or being with them throughout this experience. And this is why this is going to affect the organization of my methodology and why my methodology is shaped the way that it is. And so let me explain what that is as I close out this presentation. What I want to do in my methodology is actually research the training that occurs over time over these 5 interviews. So in the first interview, what we will be doing is simply creating the coaching container, which is the first step of embodied research design. We have to create a space where the research participant is both aware of what I am looking to research, feels attuned and safe and connected with me as a researcher, and is open and available to the practice of sharing their embodied state in the present moment with the camera running. And so I'll have the camera there, we'll have it set up, we'll be on Zoom, and I will run them through some grounding techniques and some check-in techniques in order to start to become aware of the 3 questions that I will be asking on a regular basis, which is, what are you feeling? Where do you feel it in your body? And then what associations, what does it mean? What does this remind you of? What's available to you? Things like that start to get them out of just reporting on their experience to actually dropping into their experience and then being able to report so that I can analyze that embodied state of awareness for my embodied interview design. In the first interview, it will simply be an intake and chemistry call. Once we move through the intake and chemistry call and we choose to move forward with process, we'll have 4 more sessions. In each of those sessions, I will be both interviewing them on their previous week's experience of their work environment and life environment. I'll be asking them to scan or to reflect on and to find real events from their workday that represent a dysregulated embodied state of awareness, then a modulated, and then restorative. Each of these is connected. So when they find and they can reflect on a real moment from their work that was a moment that represents a dysregulated embodied state of awareness, this is where I may transition from the ontological interview of simply how they reflect on that verbally in their mind to me and taking in that information, to the body-focused interview technique and using the focusing technique outlined by Jennifer Tantia. This is when I plan to ask them in the present moment, what are you feeling? Where do you feel it in your body? What do you notice is coming up on and in your body? And these are just examples that I'm using right here. As this comes out, I will be gathering all of this rich embodied information in order to analyze later in my embodied research design. And so I can report back on findings as I explore what happens for a manager as they learn with me to go into or down these somatic markers or trailhead moments and to explore them and to open and to develop their embodied state of awareness further. I will then do this with the dysregulated and then the modulated and finally the restorative. In some cases, my sense is that the modulated embodied state of awareness will be linked directly to the dysregulated embodied state of awareness event. And at other times, all three will be separate. After I collect this data from the first interview, my plan is to have 3 more interviews following the same process. The reason why this is important to me is because I can also see a potential to be training these individuals through the 4 interactions after the chemistry call to become more and more aware of the actual skills that they're developing while I am meeting with them. While this is not a coaching or training environment, the actual back and forth creative process of collaboration between myself as the clinician or the researcher and them as the client or the research participant is a part of the process. And this is my final point that is so important to bring out here, which is what I truly think this research is going to contribute to both the body of work as well as the greater community at large, like humanity, workers, managers, and leaders. And that is how incredibly special it is to do embodied work, because the embodied work is so aligned with the context of a real event that there is an emergent, creative, collaborative, connected back and forth between me and the research participant. And that to me is where we become trainers. We are literally teaching individuals in real time how to respond, how to notice and to respond to dysregulated and modulated embodied states of awareness, and therefore how to just maybe increase their potential to modulate dysregulated embodied states of awareness in more adaptive ways, and how to access restorative embodied states of awareness in the workplace in more effective, and to broaden and to deepen that sense of ability to slide into a restorative embodied state of awareness in the workplace, rather than simply taking it at face value the way they currently see the world, that restorative embodied states of awareness have to be accessed outside of the challenge zone, which is simply not true if you've been trained. And this, again, is something that I don't think I can remove from doing this type of study, because for me to participate with my clinician, as a clinician, with my client in the study, I will be in some way training them in how to show up because of the intimacy of embodied work. And that's why at the end of, as I finish this presentation, embodied leadership training and training managers to have adaptive stress responses in the workplace, I see as a way to merge all 3 of these often polarized intentions, which is to increase well-being, increase psychological safety, and to increase effectiveness all at the same time, to truly grow and transform as human beings, as teams, and as a community through embodied leadership. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. If you know of anybody who has been a manager at a company for more than 3 years with more than 5 direct reports, and they might be interested in being a part of my study as a participant, please have them reach out to me at chris@leadershipembodied.com. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.